Greetings comrades, respected subscribers and guests of the channel. This is part 3 of my Ponyatiya, Soviet/Russian criminal code series, and today I'll be talking about introducing yourself to the criminal authorities and the so-called Propiska. Now, it's important to understand that such nonsense is mostly happening only on the Maloletka, the juvenile wing of a pre-trial detention center, SIZO. Adult prisoners who respect themselves would never ask silly riddles and idiocy as you're about to hear, because they have plenty of other ways to understand what a prisoner who has landed in jail for the first time is actually made of. However, life behind barbed wire in Russia already looks like a madhouse, but the level of insanity found in juvenile prisons doesn't exist in any asylum, and this will have a massive impact on the serious topics of the future episodes, so pay attention. As a lot of this was told to me personally in various interviews, I'll be keeping the instructional tone, as that's considered the proper way of talking about such matters. When entering a cell, greet the inhabitants confidently, but not brazenly. Walk in. Do not pretend to be a hardened criminal or scream in ecstasy, "Home sweet home" or "native walls." Look at the circumstances. Every khata, cell, has its own order. Do not impose yourself with conversation. Watch out so you don't get tricked, which are camouflaged pranks. Sometimes a first-timer might be told there is a rule, quote, "Until the next newcomer arrives, you wash the dishes and the floors." Answer that you haven't heard of such a rule, and advise them to check with the смотрящий. Смотрящий is the watcher, or the cell leader. He is representative of the bratva in any prison cell where there are most likely 30 or more people inside. Or, if one exists in your khata, you might actually just approach and ask about the prison authority itself. Do not be insecure. Say that the person who suggested it will be the one washing the dishes. Do not panic when the guard, the controller, calls your name through the door during the evening rounds and assigns you as the duty prisoner. It is not excluded that the cops are lying or implying that you are obligated to do something. In reality, the cops assign duty prisoner just so someone is present and can be made the scapegoat for any shmon, which is search contraband check. The worst that threatens you is, for example, if they find a zatochka, which is a name for a shiv, used for cutting bread. Well, for that, the punishment is the placement in the SIZO, penal isolation or cell or just the hole. Do not put on a show by refusing to sign the resolution if you disagree with being placed there. It's just a paper acknowledging you were notified. Resistance is futile and only hurts you. Fighting the battle on paper, with a complaint to the prosecutor, is the smart move, even though it probably won't work, but it might if you're gotten lucky, so do that instead. In the solitary cell, from wake up to lights out, you're allowed writing materials. Write your complaint to the prosecutor then. No one is safe from the hole, the hermit life as they call it, but try not to ask for trouble by violating discipline just to earn cheap popularity with cellmates. All your SIZO stints are recorded in your file. When you get to the zone, that is the main camp, you will immediately be listed as negatively inclined. Depending on the severity of your article, you can get released on parole or have your sentence commuted to a fine or lighter labor after 1/3, 1/2, or 2/3 of the term. But if you have violations, this is impossible. You have to get them expunged. Or, well, these days, side note to my main channel, you can just sign up to go to the front of the war, which is, well, straight up a death penalty. Now, there is also a small chance of landing in a lawless cell or a press khata, which is a pressure torture cell. Know that it's considered shameful and bad by these prison laws of Padlu to demand to leave a cell, also known as bang on the door. But this applies to trivial reasons. However, if you are thrown in with makhnovists, anarchists and thugs, mostly in this press cell, and they beat you, ask the staff to transfer you to another place. These guys are there to make sure that you reveal information on other respectable inmates. Just never snitch. Say you didn't get along due to personality. Usually this explanation is sufficient. If they don't transfer you out of a torture cell as a last resort for life-threatening situations involving these makhnovists, or when under the threat of being turned into a petuch, which is worse than death oftentimes, smash your forehead until it bleeds on the wall. When the medics come, ask the lawyer to resolve the issue with the warden. However, if you are placed in a normal cell, behave decently and you won't be touched. Ask where should you put your bags, noting the local hierarchy. Do not offend the smatriashi or the local authority in any way or form, but be honest about yourself. Respond to humor with a joke, and to rudeness, well, back with rudeness, or better yet, with a punch. However, through ignorance you can get into trouble, that is, get caught in a bind, because the same words have different meanings on the outside and inside prison. Therefore, in the beginning, speak less until you absorb the lexicon. Be especially careful with jokes. First-timers often have themselves to blame and no one else for being laughed at and punched because they fall for any stupidity. The oldest, most popular trick is the market prank. That is, telling a newcomer that the cops are letting people go to the bazaar or market and it's his turn to give money and things to sell. They teach him to knock on the door and demand to be taken to the market. Or, well, the inmates might seriously ask a first-timer to bring everyone some kvass from the parasha room after, taking care of your needs, and parasha is like the only bathroom out there. That could get you beaten not only by the prison guards, as in the case of the market prank, but literally by everyone, and sometimes using only your feet, and might also turn you into a petuch if someone's especially nasty. All this stuff is easier for experienced convicts, the so-called zeks. If they are normal guys, they know the slang and how to joke, not only with comrades, but also with the cops. Cops who work there a long time are also savvy about this. For example, well, a guard meets you in the colony and asks for your profession. It's one thing to say programmer, but another to say stove maker and gardener. This implies, in winter I burn stoves, in summer I sit in the garden. Meaning, doing nothing. Even if you have a good sense of humor, do not think of joking immediately in captivity like recidivists do. There are so many nuances that you won't understand right away. Jokes often revolve around the ass. There is a razor-thin line between irony and insult here. You need to learn to read people, to whom you can say what, and be able to instantly switch from joking to a hard conversation. Due to the mental instability of prisoners, mood swings are common. A guy might perceive you calmly, then suddenly explode with abuse or express dissatisfaction with a completely innocent phrase. You must know how to shut this down, which is called besieging them, and not smooth over the conflict. Answer his boorish outburst confidently. Keep that opinion to yourself, or ask, and what will happen next if threatened? Usually he will either throw it in reverse, that is back down, or escalate to the limit. It's better to bring arguments to a conclusion immediately, so that there are no future excesses. Keeping grudges in prison is a horrible idea. Only certain individuals inspire fear immediately. Others are figured out during communication. They will probe you, try to touch a nerve, or run over you, often not crudely, but sneakily. Podjenka. So that if something happens, they can't be blamed as the instigator. For example, going to the toilet can be a subject of mockery. From underbaked prison bread, gases can be bad, so you fart loudly, and remarks can follow. I didn't shout that loud. The engine is working heavily. How did your legs not get blown off? This is not an insult. More crudely, they might say, your cuffs and glutes aren't holding. Also not fatal. However, there's a red line. If they blurt out, has a dig been in that ass? Well, then you must punch them in the face without hesitation. Even if you lose the fight, it doesn't matter. But afterwards, they won't mess with you and decent prisoners will be on your side because then, well, you have shown that you are extremely angry about even the slightest comparison of being a petuch. Criminals are generally very relaxed linguistically. If they sense weakness, they will put you in a ridiculous position. For example, a morally and physically strong thug says to an insecure neighbor, I'm gonna touch your ass. The neighbor starts to get nervous and makes excuses. The thug continues, you let your girlfriend or wife do it, but not me? What is this, discrimination? Or a friendly, who will tell us? We will be Grey brothers. I'm the wolf and you are the rat. This is just a prank. It's better to carry yourself so that such conversations don't arise. If they do, look at the circumstances. Do not socialize closely with people you don't understand. Do not drink shifir, which we'll have a special episode about, that is the ultra-strong tea with boars, and do not start any buddy-buddy relationships. Listen to other people more. Learn to listen so much more. For example, in prison, a kind wish after a bath might be, with a light steam and a clean little hole, even though it refers to the anus, which in other senses would be extremely evil and bad and might turn you into petuch, there is no insult in this specific phrase. Now, while adults have their subtle linguistic traps and all this slow initiation, the true nightmare begins if you land in the Maloletka, the juvenile wing. Here, the testing isn't just about language, it's a physical gauntlet. When a juvenile newcomer, the new fish, arrives from the outside world into the cell, he is essentially tested to see what kind of a passenger he is. He gets asked questions, and for a wrong answer, well, he will be punched with full force in the chest with a fist, on the head with a metal mug, or on the forehead with a spoon, so that by the end of the initiation he grows horns, bumps on his head, or worse. Unless you know how to answer in advance, or at least know a little bit, it will be very hard and tight. You cannot answer most of these riddles correctly if you don't know them beforehand. This is where it comes out who the newcomer associated with is on the outside, as many who have served time bring these studies home. For a knowledgeable person, the number of questions is reduced, or the initiation is cancelled altogether. The number of riddles during initiation is usually unlimited. They are asked until the interrogators run out of imagination. So, the juvenile newcomer is in the cell, khata. In the evening, when all movement in the prison has stopped, a boy is put on the lookout, which is called shuher, at the door. The cellmates begin the initiation. Everyone knows the rules of the game. The new arrival is immediately asked, well, will you give it in the ass or will you sell your mother? God forbid you agree to either. You will be lowered, made an outcast, raped immediately. While you're thinking, they will constantly hit you in the chest. The correct answer is, by the code, the ass is not given and the mother is not sold. There are many such riddles, and the answers are, well, equally extremely idiotic. For example, who is your mom and dad in the cell? Answer, mom is the kormushka, feed slot in the door because she feeds me. Dad is the glazok, door spy hole, because he watches over me. Will you take the red hunchback in your mouth? Answer, you must know this refers to the water tap, often rusty and curved. The answer is, I will drink water. Who is the master of the cell? Answer, the spider, because he always lives here in the corner. Question, will you put your ass behind the slippers? Answer, this implies your rear end is positioned behind your slippers when squatting over the toilet hole. If you simply answer no, they won't let you use the toilet, you'll soil yourself and be transferred to the lowered caste, so be careful about that one. Most riddles feature butts, genitals, and sexual themes. Again, while you're thinking, you're being constantly punched, just saying. The clearest examples are the classical riddles known to everyone now via internet memes. And by everyone, I mean everyone in the post-Civic sphere. These might be new to Western Europeans and Americans, but over here, everyone has absorbed them culturally in some form. At least my age and older, definitely. Well, let's start with the most typical one that I think everyone knows. Of course, in these parts, but hey, leave a comment if you've heard this one. There are two chairs. On one are sharpened spikes, on the other are jerk-off dicks. Which one will you sit on and which one will you sit your mother on? And there are two accepted answers here. One, I'll take the spikes, chop off the dicks, sit down myself and put my mother on my lap. Idiotic as usual, like I said. And two, I'll sit on the spikes myself and sit my mother on my knees. So, this is the big thing, and all of them are beyond stupid and very violent. And then there is another very classical one. A fork in the eye, or you take it in the ass once. And the answer, well, you have to know a thing or two about Russian prisons here. The answer is there are no forks in prison, only spoons. Sometimes a different answer is recommended. I don't see any one eyes here. But that can be taken as insolence, and well, they might ask, are you saying we all chose the ass? And you will get beaten extremely severely. And then there are, oh boy, more of these idiocies. You are parachuting. On the right is a forest of dicks, on the left is a sea of shit. Where do you land? Answer, in every forest there is a clearing, in every sea there is an island. You fell in the pit. In the pit there is a meat pie and a dick. What will you take and what will you shove up your ass? Answer, I'll take the pie and climb out of the pit. Again, they're not smart. They're meant basically so that you give the wrong answer and then get extremely beaten up. You and a friend are walking in the Sahara Desert. Suddenly a venomous snake bites your friend on the dick. What do you do? Answer, if the dick is above the knee, the snake can't reach it. If it's below the knee, let him suck it himself. Don't try to be smart and say that, it's quite unlikely to get a venomous snake in the Sahara Desert. However, well, there are more neutral riddles as well, because not all of them are about genitals. First of all, they also might involve some action in practical sense, and they can just keep coming constantly until you've been properly tenderized. First of all, there is one where the newcomer is given the broom and is being told, play us something. The answer, the proper one according to Ponyatiya, is to throw it back and loudly state, tune it first, then I'll play. Same logic applies if asked to play the radiator. Ask them to inflate the bellows. Then there are drawings on the wall. They draw a soccer goal and a ball on the wall, and you're demanded to drive the ball into the goal. Answer is, again, extremely stupid. Give me a pass first. Then you might actually see a cop drawn on the wall and being ordered to hit him. The answer here is, let him start first. Then there's also insane amounts of wordplay and logic riddles. First of all, there's the bread riddle. A prisoner sits in a cell and the testers, give him a dry bread, chlieb suchoi. In the morning they find bones. Where did the bones come from? That's the general question, the situation presented, and you're supposed to answer this one. Answer 1, it was bread suchoi, because suchoi in one word is dry, but suchoi is with fish soup. Bones then are fish bones. Again, stupid and beyond dumb, but you miss one of these and then you get beaten up horribly. The answer 2 here is, the bones were dice. Gaming bones molded out of breadcrumbs. That also works. Then there is another question. What will you eat? The soap on the table or the bread from the parasha, the toilet area, which instantly, turns into petuch? And note, you also cannot pick up food from the floor or toilet area, as that's zashkvar, or absolute taboo, which again instantly turns into petuch for the rest of your life, and oh boy, that's not nice. The proper answer is, the table isn't a soap dish, the parasha isn't a bread bin. All those things matter a lot, because making a bad choice here, highly unrecommended. Then another one would be, how many corners in the cell? The newcomer says 4 usually, but that's the wrong answer. In Russian slang, ugol, which is corner, refers to a ugolovnik, or criminal. The answer then would be, count the number of people in the cell. And then, then there are some utterly idiotical ones, which I just have to put in the category of just random, that you would get wrong and get beaten up. For example, you are in a train chained to levers. Ahead is a fork. Right, your mother tied to a post. Left, 10 friends. Where do you turn? Answer, left. Friends today, cops tomorrow. Cynical prison logic. I mean, that's the trolley problem. The person who told me this didn't know about the trolley problem, but this is the Russian prison answer to that one. You are driving a KAMAZ truck in the woods. A devil jumps on the hood. What do you do? Answer, a KAMAZ truck has no hood. It's a cab over truck over there, the specific one that the prisoners are taken in. You are a pilot. The plane is crashing. Where do you land? Or, sit. It's the same word in Russian. Answer is, I'll sit behind bars. Again, it's a pun on this fact that saditsa means both to sit and to land, and, in slang, also to go to jail. And then we have provocation riddles, where the goal is to catch the newcomer on inaccuracies. What year of birth are you? If he says 85, for example, they hit him. Answer is 1985. Saying just 85 implies you are 85 years old. Again, don't seek logic here, seek reasons for being beaten up. Tell us what you sat for. What are you in for? If the guy details his crime, he's wrong and will get beaten. The answer is, I'm sitting behind bars, or I sat behind bars. Then there is the tricky mug. The testers hold up a standard aluminum mug and ask, what kind of mug is this? If you describe it, you get hit with it on the head. Answer, it's a tricky mug, as stated in the game's name, and that's not a game, that's just idiocy. Justify that you are a real patsan. Patsan is the slang name for, underage youthful criminals. The answer is, again, extremely stupid. You just state your age, like 16 or something, and in slang, a respectable minor is a patsan. Over 18, they are mujiks, men. That's how you move up to the case systems. And of course, then we have the physical tests. First of all, that is the choice between minor or pilot. Minor option is crawl under the dusty bunks collecting coal. Or pilot, blindfolded, asked to jump from the top bunk onto spikes, chess pieces. If you jump, you land on a blanket. If you refuse, you're a coward, and, well, cowards get beaten up. Then there is test of sign the ceiling. If you're forced to do that, the proper answer is bring a ladder. If you fucked up somehow, they will toss you up to the ceiling and then let you fall down on the floor. The standard one is the question of, do you respect me? The person is asked to drink a mug of water for someone's health. And if you do it for one person, if you do it for everyone, you'll just vomit constantly, and probably, that's not good in a prison. The proper way is, after the second or third one, say, I respect everyone, and drink the last one for the common health. And then, basically, you might be asked to get on all fours and someone rides him. That's called the bus. The goal here is that the rider asks for stops, but the newcomer must eventually say, final stop, the end of the bus, and then he might not be beaten up. Then there's the stargazer. You are made to look through a sleeve at the ceiling and count the stars there. Then, of course, cold water is dumped down the sleeve, and the test is how you react. Do you take it, or do you get angry? Now, the problem here is that there are consequences of a failure. If a newcomer fails any of these too many times, or the initiation gets harsh, they might be offered a choice. 300 cuts, that is shoe strikes, or a sip from the toilet. Now, this is a trap, obviously. Weak teenagers might choose the sip because modern plumbing seems clean, and 300 hits sound painful. However, drinking from the toilet immediately makes you an untouchable in the lower class for life, and that is gonna ruin your whole existence and is considered worse than death. If you choose the 300 hits, they strike you about 10 times or so and stop. They're testing your spirit and willingness to endure pain rather than degrade yourself. They're not looking to make new petuks. They're making sure that you have some spine so that you won't snitch on them. They want to know if you have some dignity left in you. Now, of course, not all juvenile prisoners are cruel, but herd mentality rules. Leaders are often chosen for strength, not intelligence. Placing children in Russian prison breaks them. They are minors and by virtue of age, not yet wise at all. These kids are, sadly, also most likely to grow up to become career criminals, the famous lawful thieves of Bratva. The brutal rules keep following them throughout their lives. Well, now you've learned how to answer the riddles to save your chest from a fist, or your head from another fist. Next time we cover the most important rule of all, how to save your honor and avoid becoming a petuch. Because once you gain that status, no clever answer, nothing will save you. Oh, and on a happier note, I also have a Christmas special planned about how inmates in these prisons celebrate the New Year's, as Christmas just isn't as popular in Russia. Thank you for watching, comrades, respected subscribers, and of course, guests of the channel.